Hello from Quilt Beginnings. It's 1 o'clock. It's time for our daily update. So today I thought I would do something a little bit different. First, I want to finish some news from yesterday because several of you were really interested in the kits that we cut. Hi, Jill. We cut yesterday, and hi, Beth. I can't help but call out to you guys. I just have to tell you that when I see your names pop up, that just warms my heart. So it seriously does. Hi, Joyce. It's really, someone just asked if we're going to be on today, and here we are. Yes, we miss everybody. It's very quiet around here. Hi, Sue. So when I call out your names, it's just because it makes me feel good, and I hope that I just like that you're here. So anyway, enough of the sentimentality. I wanted to tell you about the kits yesterday. I'm going to just turn this around because I always like to do that. This Constance quilt was also shown, and several people called after our video yesterday and said, will the layer cakes make this quilt as well? And the truth of the matter is no, the layer cakes will not make this quilt as well. But I happen to cut kits that do make this quilt. So it really only needs the 4 big focal prints. Let me show you those. 1, 2, 3, 4. Like that. And then it needs 8 companions, 2 of each color. And that's what makes the different blocks in the quilt. So there's a pink block, a green block, an orange block, and a blue block. Anyway, I cut kits in the twin size, and I also cut, hi Queen Bee, I love being that. Hi Lib, hey Cindy, hey Julie and Jenny and Janet. I do feel like someone said yesterday that when I call out everyone's name, it sounds like Romper Room, and it just made me laugh out loud because I do feel like Romper Room. I'm so happy to have my friends with me. Anyway, this is the twin size, and this is the queen size. So if anyone's interested in this as a kit, it's already cut and ready to go. Okay, so that's yesterday's news. Then what I thought I would do today is talk about troubleshooting your sewing machine at home, because a lot of you call us. You would be surprised how many phone calls we get of people asking us, there we go. People asking us how they have something going on with their machine. And what usually happens, there's a combination of things that often happen. One is that the bobbin isn't even wound right to begin with. So I'm going to talk about first threading the machine, then we're going to talk about needles, and then we're going to talk about tension. So that's the TNT for today. And Katie, I don't know if you can turn that light off, but it is really bright. Thank you. Okay, you can still see me, right?
I think so.
I'm not in the
Can
dark.
everyone see you? Okay.
Yes?
Yes.
All right. She's my camera woman. Are we good?
Yes. Joyce wants us to hold a quilt kit for her.
Oh,
so we'll do that. We'll reserve one.
Queen or twin?
Let us know, Joyce, queen or twin.
Okay.
We'll go on.
Okay. So what I wanted to do is just talk about, and this is basic stuff, but it's surprising how many people forget about some of these really simple things. So the first thing is when you are threading your bobbin, and almost every machine has this, there's only a single tension disc up here. So this disc is critical to you getting tension on your thread. 99% of the time, you do. Speak louder. Okay, 99%. You know what? If you turn it the other way.
Oh, wait. Okay, we're going to go. Hi.
Yeah.
We're going to try it this way.
Okay. It is going to be harder for Katie. I wonder if you come back over here. We need like a tripod or something, because it's easier. Can you hear me better when I'm facing the camera? Yes? No? I got a thumbs up. Okay, I'm assuming yes. Okay, so Katie, I don't know how we're going to do this.
You need your hands to gesture.
I do need my hands. I need my hands. Okay. All right, so this is what we're going to do. When we are down on the sewing machine, this guy right here, the tensioning disc, there we go, usually needs a full 360, and it comes around. It really needs to be cinched in tight. If you don't cinch in tight up here, you guys get those spongy, mushy bobbins. And if you do a spongy, mushy bobbin, then you don't get good tension when you're stitching. So number one is make sure when you are threading your bobbin to wind it, you put a really tight tension up in this tension disc right here. Okay, so that's for the bobbin. Another thing I want to talk about is just when you go to thread your machine itself, everyone should always, every machine, whatever brand you're working on, you want to make sure that your foot, there we go, down there, your foot here is in the up position, because there are tension discs in here, open and close. And when your foot is down, they close, and when your foot is up, they open. So what happens is if you thread your machine with your foot down, the thread doesn't get all the way. You have the cymbals, you know, your tension discs are like a pair of cymbals, and they go together when the foot is down, and they open up when the foot is up. So your thread gets in the front of those tension discs, and you might think that it's threaded properly, but oftentimes it falls back out, and then you get those loops on the bottom. So a lot of people will call and say, my machine is making loops on the bottom. I have problems with my bobbin. What's going on? And it has nothing to do with your bobbin. It has to do with the top. So the machine is backwards. If your stitching on the bottom of your fabric is loopy, it's the top of your machine that needs to be addressed. Okay, so once you thread your machine, let me just thread this one real quick. I'm going to come back around. I'm just going to go down and around, and they're all variations on a theme, right? All of ours come through the tension discs, and then they go up and around the take-up lever, and then they come back down. When I get down here to thread my needle, I really like to put my foot down. So here I have no tension on my thread. When I put my needle down, or my foot down, see how much tension I have on my thread? That is always my checkpoint. And I really do this. I still do this. I'm a professional, girls, and I still do this. I always check my tension, because it's surprising how occasionally something doesn't get seated in here properly, and you will absolutely get loops on the back side of your fabric if it's not. So then when I put my foot down, it makes threading my needle a lot easier, because I now have tension on my thread. So foot up, no tension, foot down, lots of tension, okay? When you're at home and you girls call me and say, I'm getting looping on the bottom, and I say, have you rethreaded your machine? Some of you will say, yes, I have. And all you've done is kept everything up here the same, but you've just rethreaded down here. You have to actually pull all the thread out of the machine and start back up at the top with your foot up, and then rethread. And you will be surprised how many people say, oh my gosh, that fixed it, okay? So super simple, but a lot of times we don't think back to super simple. We think, oh, it's my bobbin, and you keep taking your bobbin out and putting it back in, and it's not solving any issue, okay? So that's the big thing about threading. And when we do tell you, anytime you have poor stitch quality, the very first thing you should do is rethread top and bottom. So pull your bobbin all the way out, your top thread all the way out, and rethread. And a lot of times that's all we do when you guys bring it into us, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's stitching beautifully. And I said, all I did was rethread it, okay? All right, so that's for the threading process. I also want to talk about how your thread is being spooled off. So if you come up here, Katie, to the top of the machine. So this is where, this is a cross round spool. So let me hold it up for you here. Let me pull it out of the machine. So I don't know if you can see this, but I think you can. Let me just wrap it back up. Can you see how the thread is doing a V? It's going like this on the spool itself. This kind of thread likes to be pulled off like this. It wants to come off the spool the same way that it went on the spool. So cross-wound thread goes off this way. We don't have the spool spinning. So that would always go on a horizontal spool holder. And what happens if you don't take a cross-wound spool that way is it corkscrews on itself. And that will also cause thread to break, needles to break. A lot of times we think that it's the needle that is the issue when the needle breaks, but oftentimes it's the thread that is stuck. So you want to make sure that if you're using cross-wound thread, your thread lays horizontal. If you're using, a lot of machines have a secondary spool pin, and sometimes this is the primary and this is the secondary, but most machines, a lot of machines have both a vertical and a horizontal spool pin. This is a sulky thread, and you can see that it is not V-ing, it's circular. So it actually wants to unspool this way, where it's actually spinning. See how I'm spinning the spool? That one is going to want to come on a vertical, because then when I pull it, it actually spins the spool. And that's what you want. So you want to make sure that if you have a cross wound, you lay it horizontal. And if you have a circular, that you go vertically. Okay? So that will help with some of your thread breakage and tension issues as well. Another thing that we always do when you come in and you have problems with your tension is we always change the needle. The needle is very inexpensive to change, and we use them all the time. We expect them to do all these things, but we don't change them. So if you notice any kind of skipping stitches or snagging, you could sometimes hear the thread popping, the needle popping as it goes through, especially when you're sewing on batiks, change your needle. And I will say that some of you put on a 60 or a 70 weight needle, and then you try and use your needle threader, and your needle threader won't work. The reason why is the needle threaders are made to be used with needles that are 80 and larger. The eye of the needle on an 80 or a 90 or 100 are much larger than the eye of the needle of a 60 or a 70. There's a little tiny one. I'm glad you didn't know that. I'm glad I'm giving you, horizontal versus vertical. I'm actually teaching you guys something. That's, yeah. Okay, so the needle size, the eye of the needle size does make a difference for your needle threader. If you imagine the needle threader is a tiny, every needle threader has a tiny, tiny little wire. And that little wire, here's my eye of my needle, that little wire goes into the eye of the needle. And if that eye of the needle is really tiny, it can't get in there. And what happens is you try and get it in there and you end up bending your wire. And once your wire is bent, your needle threader doesn't work anymore. And it makes you sad. And then we have to replace it. So that's what's going on a lot of times with your needle threader. So again, if you're noticing skipping stitches in particular, absolutely change your needle. And then stay with the larger size. The 60s are made for really lightweight fabrics, and they aren't going to work well with your needle threader. Okay, so that's our needles and our thread. I'm going to tell you there's all kinds of needles for all different purposes, and that's a whole nother conversation. I usually use, for what we're doing with general cotton sewing, normally use just universal 80s is what I sew with actually every day. Sometimes a 90, but almost always an 80. Okay, and my needle works great, my needle threader. All right, there was one other thing, needles, threads, tension. Was there anything else about this that I needed to tell you? Needles, thread, tension. That might have been all I had to say.
Did we talk about tension?
We talked about bad tension. We talked about threading it properly, change your needle. Oh, and the other thing is if you do have a needle that breaks, a lot of times people are concerned that they change their needle and then their machine starts misbehaving. Sometimes your needle is not all the way in, and that's another problem, that it just isn't pushed all the way up. So if you just change your needle and it didn't change your stitching quality, I would change it again, or just loosen that screw and make sure that you put it all the way back up. Okay, so if all those things fail, I have some really, really good advice for you. You guys just need to get a new machine. Okay. I wanted to tell you that this is very unprecedented. What we're doing right now is crazy, and we all know that. All three of our manufacturers, Pfaff, Babylock, and Bernina, have all allowed us in this very unusual time to actually ship machines to customers. We have never, ever been allowed to do that before, because we want you to come in and let us educate you, teach you, let you learn all about your machine, and get you in the right machine. But during this window where so many of you are at home, I know you did, Cindy. I was going to show it in a minute. Cindy got a new machine. Actually, let's just take a walk. Come on with me, because today, and this is what made me even think to tell you this, 2 of you lovely ladies have already signed up for a new machine. We have Miss Blanca here, who has never embroidered before, and she figures this is a great time for her to start embroidering, and she's very excited about it. And then Miss Cindy needed a take it along machine. She already has a very nice fancy sewing machine, but she wanted it to have a little sister. So if you're looking for a portable machine or something that you're ready to embroider, or you're just frustrated with your machine, it's not behaving well, we can help you with that. Also wanted to tell you that Bernina does have its annual spring sale. It had no idea that was going to show up. So they have extended financing right now, 48 months, 60 months, and they also have $400 off of 4 series, $500 off of 5 series, $700 off of 7 series, and $800 off of an 8 series off of our sale prices. So long terms to pay for them, and great pricing, and the same with Babylock. They're all feeling what we're feeling. So if you need any help, you know who to call. Okay. Anyway, I think that I wanted to give you a schedule of what we're going to do the rest of the week. Today was just getting some self-love for your machines as you're at home, and I know all of them are getting a lot of use. But I also wanted to tell you what we're doing the next 2 days. So we alluded to the fact that Miss Joyce loves her AccuQuilt system. So tomorrow I'm going to show you how she cuts triangles on the AccuQuilt. And then we thought on Friday, we're going to have our smackdown race. And I'm going to use my triangle paper, and Joyce is going to use the AccuQuilt. So you definitely want to tune in for the next 2 days. And then next week, we're going to have a whole nother series that we're going to cover. Actually, it's going to be all about bindings, doing doing scallop bindings and bindings with flanges. And each day it'll be a different kind of binding technique. So I'm really having fun talking to you guys. It's so nice to see everybody, and I wish that you were here. The shop is very lonely without you. But we're really happy that we can at least reach out into the community and say hi. So keep in touch. Bye.